The great palace of Orion rose like a gleaming crown above the violet plains of the kingdom. Tall spires curved toward the sky, as if reaching for the twin moons that shimmered above. On the highest balcony stood the princess named Mira, whose silver eyes held both strength and restrained hope. For many seasons, her people had lived with tension at the borders, and she had been expected to form an alliance with a foreign partner. When she returned from diplomatic travel, she brought with her a human man named Leo, whom she married through an ancient ritual of unity. Her people believed he was a simple visitor from a distant world, who had no grand position or lineage. Even Mira believed it. She had chosen him not for power, but for the gentle steadiness she sensed in him. He spoke humbly. He walked quietly. He listened before he answered. To her he seemed a calm figure in a time of political storms. From the moment the marriage was announced, the palace buzzed with whispers. Some questioned the match, some doubted the wisdom of it. Others simply wondered how a princess known for her pride had chosen a man who carried no title. Leo adjusted to the new world with a curious spirit. He learned the customs. He tasted unfamiliar foods. He bowed when required and stood tall when expected. He walked through the palace halls with respectful silence and offered soft words to each person he met. To the people he seemed exactly as he appeared, a simple man, a quiet husband, a supportive partner. To their strong Princess Mira admired his calm nature. She had lived her entire life under the scrutiny of expectation and the weight of duty. Leo was the first person who treated her not as a symbol, but as someone with her own fears and needs. He never pressured her to stand stronger than she felt. He encouraged her to rest when she tried to hide her exhaustion. When she asked him one evening why he cared so deeply, he answered in his usual steady way. He said a bond meant supporting one another, and he said no one deserved to carry the burden of a world alone. To Mira, those words were like warm light that eased old wounds. Life continued peacefully for a time. Mira handled her royal responsibilities, while Leo helped where he could. He studied the architecture of the palace. He explored the open markets with respectful wonder. He asked elders to teach him about the long history of Orion. Soon the people learned to accept him. Some even liked him for his sincere manner and unassuming nature. Yet beneath this calm surface, Mira sensed something hidden in him. There were moments when Leo looked toward the horizon with a distant expression. There were nights when he woke silently and stared into the darkness as if listening for something. When she asked if he was well, he always smiled and reassured her. Still, she felt a quiet tension within him, a tightly held restraint. She could not understand it, but she trusted him enough to wait for the truth to surface in its own time. Tension within the kingdom grew. Reports came from the border. A hostile faction gathered forces and moved closer with each passing day. The council urged Mira to take a defensive stance. She prepared the armies. She ordered scouts. She consulted advisors. Through all of this, Leo remained close, but never interfered. He stood behind her in meetings. He watched the soldiers train. He offered soft advice only when she directly sought it. His presence was steady, yet strangely composed, as if he had seen these events many times before. Evening, the sky darkened with storm clouds, not of weather, but of approaching threat. The hostile faction advanced faster than expected. They had slipped past watchers and were heading toward the capital. Alarm echoed through the palace. Soldiers assembled. Servants hurried to secure the halls. Mira donned ceremonial armor that glowed with the crystal patterns of her lineage. She turned to Leo, expecting him to stay within the inner chambers for safety. Yet he did not move toward shelter. He followed her toward the balcony, where the horizon blazed with the glow of distant fires. Mira placed a hand on his chest and told him he needed to remain inside. Leo looked into her eyes with a calm she had never seen. So clearly, he told her he would not leave her side. She argued that the battlefield was no place for him. He answered that vows meant something. She insisted he was not trained for the chaos beyond the walls. This time his expression shifted. He said gently that he had been avoiding this moment, but could do so no longer. Mira stepped back in confusion as he reached toward the cloak draped over his shoulder. He drew from beneath it a hilt wrapped in dark metal and etched with quiet symbols. She had never seen him carry any weapon. When he pressed a small switch, the blade extended with a shimmer of light. Not a beam of energy, not a ceremonial decoration, but a true combat weapon forged with ancient human craftsmanship. She stared at it with disbelief. It was clean, yet scarred with marks of old battles. She realized in an instant that the man she believed simple carried a past he had hidden with careful discipline. Leo told her he had once served not as a visitor, but as a protector on distant worlds. He had left that life behind. He had hoped to live quietly. He had hoped to build something peaceful with her, but he said he would not allow harm to reach her. Myra felt her breath catch. The world she knew tilted all along. She had believed herself the one who brought strength to their bond. Now she saw a different truth. Leo had worn simplicity like a mantle, not out of deception, but out of desire to leave conflict behind. Still he had trained hands, trained instincts, a trained spirit. Before she could speak, alarms blared across the city. The enemy forces reached the gates. The palace shook as distant blasts echoed through the walls. Mira's soldiers rushed into formation. She turned to lead them, but Leo stepped beside her with the same steady presence he had always shown. Only now she understood the depth of that steadiness. They descended into the courtyard, where soldiers gathered. The air trembled with tension. Mira raised her voice and rallied her forces. They needed to hold the gates. They needed to defend the capital. They needed to protect their people. Leo stood quietly among them. Some soldiers glanced at him, wondering why the quiet husband of the princess carried a blade. No one had time to question further. The enemy battalion surged through the outer barrier. The clash began. Mira charged forward with her guard. Her armor glowed, her movements were swift and precise. She fought with the grace of someone born to lead warriors. Yet amidst the chaos, she caught glimpses of Leo, and each glimpse struck her with awe. Moved with balance, honed by years of disciplined practice. He defended soldiers who stumbled. He guided those who lost footing. He dodged strikes with calm efficiency and returned blows with measured precision. He never sought the center of the battle. He moved along the edges where the line risked collapsing. He strengthened it quietly. He protected without drawing attention. It was not the fury of a legend. It was the steady power of a guardian who knew exactly where to stand and when for hours the conflict raged. The sky dimmed, the ground shook. Myra's breath grew heavy, but her resolve did not waver. When the final wave of the hostile faction broke and scattered the courtyard, fell into exhausted silence. Soldiers cheered, citizens wept with relief. The kingdom stood. Myra searched for Leo. She found him near the outer wall, where he leaned lightly on his blade. He looked tired but uninjured. When she approached, he greeted her with the same quiet smile he had always shown. She asked why he never revealed his past. He answered that he wanted her to choose him for who he was, rather than what he could do. He also said he feared reminding himself of the battles he had once fought. He hoped this world would allow him peace. Yet when danger came, he could not ignore it. Myra placed her hand over his. She felt gratitude. She felt astonishment. She felt admiration deeper than any she had known. She told him she had chosen him because he carried a strength of the heart she had never seen in anyone. She said now she understood that strength ran deeper than she had imagined. In the days that followed, the kingdom repaired its defenses. Word spread of the quiet human who had fought beside their prince's people, who once doubted him now approached with respect. Some asked where he had trained. Others asked how he fought with such clarity. Leo simply said he did what needed to be done. He never exaggerated. He never sought praise. Myra began seeing him in a new light. She watched how he guided young recruits with patience. She watched how he treated each person with sincerity. She watched how he offered advice without demanding authority. Her admiration for him grew in the quiet moments more than the clashes of battle. His true strength was not the blade he carried, it was the integrity with which he lived. Evening they stood on the balcony, where violet plains stretched beneath the twin moons. The world felt calm again. Myra asked him a question she had carried for many days. She asked if he regretted leaving his peaceful life behind, now that his past had been revealed. Leo looked out at the horizon. He said peace was never meant to be hiding from one's past. He said real peace came from choosing how to use one's strength. If that strength protected their world, then he would gladly stand with her. Myra felt warmth rise in her chest. She told him she no longer saw him as simple nor ordinary. She saw him as a partner who stood with her in ways she never expected. Leo answered that he saw her not as a ruler burdened by duty, but as someone who valued her people with sincere devotion. He said he wished to walk with her in whatever future. They built the breeze, carried soft scents from the plains. The palace lights glimmered below them. The kingdom slept safely because of the choices they made together. They stood side by side, two lives intertwined.